Hello, you beautiful people. My name is Luke, and today we're back with some daily waiver wire streaming options for May 1st. So I split it up into two sections, guys for 8 to 10 team leagues, and guys for 12 plus team leagues. As always, feel free to drop a like on the video, and subscribe if you enjoyed. It only takes 1 second for you, and it really helps the channel out. And with that being said, let's get into it with the first daily waiver wire streaming options for today. So first up is someone that I would consider a must stream for today, and it's going to be Beef Stew, or Isaiah Stewart of the Detroit Pistons. And the only thing that's been holding Isaiah Stewart back has been the fact that he has to split his minutes with Plumlee. But whenever Plumlee sits out a game, which is the case today, he's not playing today against the Hornets, I think Isaiah Stewart becomes a must stream player because he's capable of putting up like 50 fantasy points. He's a really good scorer, great rebounding rate. He had a 120 rebound game, I believe, and that just shows the talent that he has on that part of the game. But yeah, I'm expecting a huge night from Isaiah Stewart. Whenever Plumlee is out, he gets like 30 minutes a game, and he's really just a great per-minute producer, so I definitely recommend streaming him. He's giving you good points, good rebounds, good blocks if you're in a categories league. He helps out in that department as well. But yeah, I would consider Isaiah Stewart a must-pick-up option for today, and I would pick him before anyone else on this list in terms of streaming options for today. Next up is someone I've mentioned before, and it's a player that's really been benefiting from the injuries to their team, and it's going to be Oshae Brissett. And ever since Sabonis went down, he's been averaging around 35 minutes a game, which is pretty insane, and he's been producing at a really good rate. He's a really good scorer, rebounder. He gets a few more steals and blocks a game than you'd think. Like, he's a really solid peripheral stat contributor as well, and that's why I'd really recommend picking him up for today. The only reason he's lower than Isaiah Stewart for me is that Sabonis is listed as questionable. So I definitely hesitate on picking up Brissett until later in the day, until we get like a definitive statement on the status of Sabonis. But I just feel like he's too good of a player to pass on the opportunity that if Sabonis doesn't play and then you don't pick up Brissett, I think it's something that you're really going to regret. So I'm more putting Brissett on this list to just remind you guys to like keep an eye on Sabonis' status for today. If you're interested, join the Discord through the link in the description and follow the Fantasy Labs updates in there. It's like by the minute updates of what players are going to be playing tonight, what the lineups are going to be. So I definitely recommend joining that through the link in the description just to keep an eye on things like this. But yeah, I mean, obviously if Sabonis is back into the lineup, I wouldn't recommend picking up Brissett. But on the chance that Sabonis doesn't return, which I assume there is a pretty good chance because they are playing OKC, so they probably don't have that much incentive to bring him back into the lineup today, I would definitely recommend picking up Brissett, or at the very least just keep an eye on Sabonis like I mentioned. Third player on our list is actually someone else that's been benefiting from an injury, and it's going to be Dorian Finney-Smith. And it's announced that Kristaps Porzingis is sitting out tonight, so I think that turns Dorian Finney-Smith into a really intriguing streaming option. He gets around 30 minutes a game at the very minimum, and he's just a really solid contributor. He contributes in the points category, he's an improved three-point shooter, he's a good rebounder, he's a good defender, so he gets a few amount of steals. And I think he's just a really valuable player to have due to like the consistency, like I said. Like, he really benefits off of Luka's playmaking. And I just expect him to have an overall solid night. He's not going to jump off the page in any like particular category, but I think he has the potential to just be a solid contributor to your fantasy team on a night like tonight, especially when they're going against a weak Washington defense. I think it's going to open up a lot of three-point opportunities for him, and I definitely look for him to contribute in that category if you're in a categories league. And then that brings us to the last player on my 8 to 10 team leagues, and this is just, obviously, this might seem to some of you like, why are you even bringing him up? But I couldn't help but notice he's only rostered in 75% of leagues, and it's going to be Kevin Porter Jr. And while 75% of leagues is a lot, like, Kevin Porter Jr. should be rostered in about 90% of leagues right now. There's no reason to not have him on your team unless you're in like a 4-man league. Because with Wall out, he is going to be he's not going to put up 50 points every night like he did against the Bucks a few nights ago, but he's going to be scoring like at the very minimum like 20 a game. And I just don't think that's someone that should be on any waiver wires. I know there's like concerns about his consistency, but just by sheer volume, I'd overlook them, and I consider Kevin Porter Jr. if you're in like a 6-team league, an 8-team league, and for some reason he is on your waiver wire, I would consider him someone that you absolutely have to pick up. So I'm just putting him in here to just remind you guys that for some reason, if he is on your waiver wire, he shouldn't be. And with that being said, let's get into the 12-team plus league ads for the day. So now we're on to the 12-team plus league ads for the day, and the first one I want to mention is Willy Hernangomez. And this is because Steven Adams is out with an injury, and it looks like he's been the primary beneficiary of that injury, so he's getting around 29 minutes a game, and he's just a really solid rebounder, decent points producer, nothing crazy, but I mean, hey, with that kind of minutes, you really want to look at streaming centers that can contribute with high rebounding rates, because there's going to be a very high baseline for the production you're going to get out of them for the day, and there's just something that they can build off of, and you can really look at getting a good game out of them. So yeah, I'd expecting him to have a really good game tonight against Minnesota. Just because, like I said, I expect him to get around 30 minutes. It looks like Jackson Hayes is getting the lesser of the minutes out of the two of them. So yeah, it looks like if Steven Adams is going to keep missing games, I would consider Hernan Gomez a must stream in 12-team plus league ads. And yeah, definitely look at picking him up for tonight because the Pelicans really need to get their way into the play-in game. They're trying to be competitive, and Hernan Gomez is going to be getting a lot of minutes while Steven Adams is out with that injury. And then next up on my list is going to be Facundo Campazzo. And I won't go into too much detail with him because I have mentioned him in other videos for streaming options, but like I said, it's with the Murray injury. Campazzo's become a lot more of an emphasis in the Denver offense, especially in terms of a ball handler. If you're in a categories league and you need assists, I would consider Campazzo like a must roster for you because he's a really good contributor in that. He's a really solid passer. He's capable of having really nice games because of that passing combined with his ability to score the ball. He's not like a crazy scorer, but if he has a good game, if he has a good scoring game, when you combine that with his already stellar passing, it really just makes for the potential to have a really good fantasy night. But yeah, he's getting around 30 minutes a game as well. He looks like he's getting, like I said, he's a lot more of a primary feature in their offense. So I definitely recommend streaming Facundo Campazzo if you're in a 12-team plus team league this week. So then if we move on to the next player on my list, it's actually going to be a bit of a surprise, but it's going to be Kent Bazemore. And this is because Oubre's been dealing with an injury. As you can see, a common theme for streaming these kind of players is like if there's an injury to a key piece of another team, someone has to step up and fill that gap, fill that void. And for the Warriors, it looks like it's been Kent Bazemore. He was also just dealing with a little bit of a COVID thing. He had to miss the past 3 games. But he's back into the lineup, and he's getting 33 minutes a game with Oubre being out. He's like stepping into the starting lineup. So if Oubre is going to miss more time with the wrist injury, I think Bazemore should be a roster ad for most leagues, up to 12 teams at least, because he's a high-energy player. He's a decent rebounder. He makes a lot of hustle plays. He's really good at getting steals when he gets the minutes. He had a 6-steal game against Washington, and he had a 3-steal game against Minnesota the other day. So yeah, when you combine that with his rebounding ability, his ability to get to the rim, I think he has the potential to go for a really big night tonight against Houston, and especially with the Warriors being on a back-to-back as well against Houston, I think that makes him a good option because it doesn't take up 2 acquisitions, and you can just stream him for today and tomorrow. So that's definitely something to consider. And then the last player that I'd say is a potential ad for a similar reason to Bazemore is going to be Kenyon Martin Jr., and it is with the Rockets having a back-to-back. I know that we're nearing the end of the week, so if you don't have that many acquisitions left for this week, you're really going to want to stream guys that are on back-to-backs. So like I said, I think Kenyon Martin would be on the lower end of guys that I would like to stream, just by I'd rather have the guys that I've mentioned previously before I'd roster him. But whenever Wood sits out, Kenyon Martin has really good games. And I'm not saying Wood is going to sit out this back-to-back, but there's a chance that it could happen. And even if he doesn't, Kenyon Martin could be a sneaky ad if you're in a 16-team league. He could go off for a really big game. He's capable of that. He's an athletic player, decent rebounder, and if he has a really good scoring game, then you never know. He just might surprise you. So and he has the back-to-back like I mentioned. So if you have limited acquisitions left, I'd look at picking up someone that does have a back-to-back this weekend. So we're looking at someone like players on the Rockets or the Warriors like I mentioned. And yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. As always, leave your guys' waiver wire suggestions in the comments below for players that you think people should pick up today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys very much for watching. And as always, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day.